Can we all, ladies and gentlemen, now rise up for the national anthem? Be seated, please. The Honorable Minister of Information and other members of the Federal Executive Council here present, members of the National Assembly, particularly the chairman and members of the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, the Chairman House Committee and its members on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, the SGF, the Head of Service, Federal Permanent Secretaries here present, heads and chairmen of anti-corruption agencies here present with us, service chiefs, and head of security agencies, director generals, and heads of federal government agencies, party chieftains, the SAs to the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, who are here with us, Your Excellencies, ambassadors and high commissioners from various countries in Nigeria, labor organizations, and their leaders, civil society organizations here present, directors and staff from various MDAs, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the press, a very good morning and welcome to this occasion. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the fight against corruption is one of the cardinal points of this administration. And you are all aware that the federal government has been taking a number of steps, particularly measures, to combat corruption in this country since it came to power. Among some of the measures being taken include institutional reforms, advocacy, and at the same time, pursuing people who are accused of corruption by prosecuting them and ensuring that all that they have stolen is recovered. This has brought the issue of corruption to the front burner in this country, where the sessions and topics are taken about corruption. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, you all agree with me that today, in this country, the issue of corruption has gone under the table. It has gone under the table because a number of corrupt people will not flaunt their corrupt resources like they used to do. They have gone underground. And as a result of that, Nigerians and the administration are still struggling to ensure that this corruption, this enemy, this dictator that has brought in cancer into our society is here. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that corruption, if we allow it to continue, it will kill us, and our nation will never progress. And you recall that our president has always said it, that if we do not kill corruption, corruption will kill us. So today, the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture has provided a platform for us to discuss this issue, this cancer that has been eating in our society, for us to prepare solutions, for us to hear from the people charged with the responsibilities of tackling this corruption, to tell us what they have been able to do, the successes they have recorded, and the challenges they are facing. So today we are having a town hall meeting at the NAF Conference Center on the road to discuss these matters. And for your information, ladies and gentlemen, this particular program is being covered live. We are live both locally and internationally. And we are being covered by NTA, national, and NTA local. FRCN, Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, is also billing us. So also Voice of Nigeria. The land is also covering us live. We are also on social media, particularly the social media platform is supported by the Federal Ministry of Information. So when you go to the social media handle, you will see all the discussions that are going on right there. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we equally have some panelists that are here to discuss with us, and among the panelists, for your information, we do have the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abuja, SAN, who is ably represented by Mr. Abiodun Ayodeji, who is the SA to Mr. President on financial crimes. He is here with us. Sir, you're most welcome. We also have the Chairman, Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, PACA, Professor Itse Sagi, who is also represented by the Executive Secretary, Professor Sadiq Sada. Sir, you're most welcome. The Acting Chairman of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Ibrahim Mabu, is also here with us. So you're welcome, sir. The Chairman, Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses Commission, Professor Bolaji Owasanege, is also here with us. Sir, you're most welcome. With us also, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, is the Inspector General of the Nigerian Police. He is being represented by DIG Amenchi Baraya, who is the DIG in charge of supplies and logistics. Sir, you are most welcome. So, Your Excellencies, without taking too much of your time, may I now call on the moderator and the chief host of this occasion, in the person of the spokesman of the federal government, in the person of Alhaji Lai Mohammed, the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, to please come forward and give the opening remarks. Honorable Minister, Information and Culture. Members of the Federal Executive Council here present, the Head of Service, Government Secretaries, Heads
and chairmen of anti-corruption agencies here present, service chiefs, director generals, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, and heads of mission, the Deputy President of the Nigerian Labour Congress, directors and staff of NGOs, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I think I would start first by please apologizing to Professor Isa, who is the chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau, who is also one of our panelists. Professor Isa, please. Let me formally welcome you all, to this special town hall meeting on the fight against corruption. I want to specifically welcome my colleagues, honorable ministers, who have taken time off their very busy schedule to be here today. May I also welcome our distinguished panelists for today's town hall meeting, and indeed all those who have taken the place to be here. I thank everybody. Honorable ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Minister of Information and Culture launched the town hall meeting series in Lagos on April 23, 2016, to provide a platform for the federal government to regularly give account of its stewardship to the people, get a feedback and input from them, and overall to enhance citizen participation in governance. This is the 17th edition of town hall meetings and the second in this next level tenure. As I said earlier, today's special town hall meeting is on the fight against corruption. The fight against corruption is one of the three cardinal programs of the administration of President Abuja, with the others being the war against insecurity and the revamping of the economy. Yes, this is not the first time Nigeria is fighting the canker worm of corruption, but it is the first time that the fight is being backed by a strong political will, with the president known for his honor, dignity, and incorruptibility, personally leading the fight against corruption. And that is making all the difference, as you will soon hear from our panelists. One may say that the war against corruption is still a war in progress, but it's also fair to say that corruption has now been driven under the table, and that the corrupt ones can no longer flaunt the proceeds of their corruption the way they used to do before. That is a major step forward. After all, every successful battle is a step towards winning a war. The war against corruption is a war of survival for Nigeria. This is because the success of the other key programs of the government, such as revamping the economy and tackling security, is closely intertwined with how well the nation is able to fight corruption. For as long as the nation fails to check corruption, tackling insecurity, and the revamping of the economy will remain a mirage. In other words, the fight against corruption is pivotal to the success of the other cardinal programs of the administration. Finally, I want to reiterate that the anti-corruption war is not Buhari's war alone. It is Nigeria's war. Hence the need for every citizen to support it. Part of the efforts to win support of Nigerians is to carry them along every inch of the way. Today's special town hall meeting on the fight against corruption fits into that effort, as it provides an opportunity for the major stakeholders in the federal government's battle against corruption to give account of their stewardship and for Nigerians to have the opportunity to interact with them, ask them questions, and also make suggestions. This way, we can all be on the same page as far as this war of survival is concerned. Once again, honorable ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for taking the time to be here for this town hall meeting. But before I call my panelists, I must not fail to appreciate the efforts of the National Orientation Agency, the organization that's actually the power behind all our town hall meetings. We will now take presentations from our panelists. After that, we will take questions and comments from the audience. May I now please call on the representative Attorney General of the Federation, who is also the Special Advisor on Financial Crime. By the way, he said we should stop addressing him as the SA on corruption, that is SA on financial crimes. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I bring greetings from Mr. Abubakar Malami, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, who is in faraway Sri Lanka on official assignment. This permits me to stand on existing protocol so that we don't waste time. I'm here to discuss the anti-corruption war from the side of the office of the Honorable Attorney General. When talking about issues of corruption in Nigeria, we cannot overemphasize the subject because it is so important in the scheme of things in Nigeria. Who are we as a people? We have earned in excess of $650 billion historically. But bulk of the funds have either been stolen or mismanaged, leaving us with infrastructure that is grossly inadequate to support a modern economy. Today I read in the papers, Meiti said in the last 10 years, $10 billion have been stolen, $40 billion have been stolen due to oil theft alone. So it is so real that, like the president said, if we don't kill corruption, it is going to kill us. Now, it is in recognition of this that President Muhammadu Buhari's administration decided to focus, among other things, on the war against corruption. Because the president has powers he has a duty under the Constitution to ensure that abuse of power and corrupt practices are abolished. And that power also of the president includes maintenance of all laws of the Federation, which includes anti-corruption laws. So that is the legal basis. Now, the Attorney General is the chief law officer whose duty it is to coordinate the implementation and enforcement of all these laws. So on the head of the Attorney General, because in fighting corruption, it has to be legally done in line with international best practices. Even when we have found someone who is a known thief, we cannot just pick him on the road and send him to jail. Procedures under the law must be followed. So the Attorney General in this regard has done a lot by setting up the Nigerian National Anti-Corruption Strategy. The anti-corruption strategy was signed by FEC in July 2017, and it is resting on 5 pillars. And the pillars are prevention of corruption, through which the focus is to reduce gaps and vulnerabilities. Corruption is so alluring that if you don't deal with it technically and professionally and effectively, efficiently, you are not likely going to achieve any results. So when when someone is entrusted with funds and he knows that he can help himself with it without checks, without consequences, the chances that the person will do so is very high. So one of the focus is to prevent. And how have we done this? There are policies of the government like the BVN policy, which prevents the opening of fictitious accounts and accounts in non-existing names, thereby facilitating corruption. We enforced the implementation of that policy effectively through the banking system. The IPPIS, which brings all the public servants and public officers within the basket of one salary payment, so that it is not possible for someone to be earning salaries from 10 places. There are other policies of the government, preventive measures, like the TSA. Agencies of government can have 1 million accounts that are outside the purview of any regulatory agency. But because of the TSA, everyone has been constrained to put all their funds in a common purse, which is visible and makes it easier for oversight purposes. So the next pillar again is enforcement of sanctions. This administration has, without sounding vainglorious or trying to blow our trumpets, we have tried to effectively enforce anti-corruption sanctions against even politically exposed persons who ordinarily are untouchables by Nigerian arrangements. The president, because of his political will, focused on this class of persons, and we all know what has happened in recent past. Another pillar is public enlightenment, and this is what we are doing here this morning. The war against corruption cannot, all the anti-corruption agencies are well represented here. We have been talking about it, but we know that if we do not hold the law, the war, if Nigerians do not see it as an existential battle, which they must also be part of, is not likely going to succeed. And that is why we have this arrangement, this meeting this morning, to carry everybody along, to hold the battle. This is our country. We don't have any other place to go. We see videos on social media where people talk about other countries, saying Nigeria is this, Nigeria is that. It should prick our hearts, and we should know that we have to be patriotic. So this is the essence of public enlightenment, which the office of the Attorney General is also championing. Also connected to public enlightenment is campaign for ethical reorientation. Historically in Nigeria, we have an ethic disposition against corruption. In Yoruba, they say, if someone is a thief, no matter what he's wearing tomorrow, he is still a thief. And that is the perception that people have of him. So at what point did we lose it? At what point we have now become a people who have placed so much emphasis on money? So we need to reorientate ourselves and deconstruct money, which we have placed premium upon. So it's one of the pillars that we are driving. And also, the next pillar is recovery of stolen funds. If people have stolen so much, and the government is not able to disgorge them of the ill-stolen wealth, the war against corruption is nothing. Because they have a big war chest to destroy the war, to thwart it, and deal with it. So in this regard, through the office of the Attorney General, the President signed the Presidential Executive Order number 6 of 2018. By the provisions of this Presidential Executive Order, every anti-corruption agency are under a duty to ensure that, with respect to any investigation or litigation bordering on corruption, assets involved must be protected, and the threshold is 50 million naira. So historically, when people have stolen so much in billions, you take them to court, they even have so much money to buy Ashwebi. Every time the matter is coming up, they sponsor troops to come and drum for them. So it has lost the steam. So we feel if we allow people to still have access to these funds, through which they can make a mess of the whole system, corrupt the judges, corrupt the investigators, then we are joking. So, through the Office of the Attorney General, we designed that order signed by the President to ensure that those class of persons do not have access to the funds in issue. And it has been so effective. People who hitherto were so, bold about the battle against them, they are now coming forward to say, okay, I've stolen 650 million. I want to return everything so that I can have peace. Because we have more or less changed the strategy in the war against corruption. So, also the Office of the Attorney General has been seriously involved in the effective implementation of the Administrative or Criminal Justice Act of 2015. The act, in a way, revolutionized criminal prosecution in Nigeria. And the Attorney General of the Federation is the one in charge of providing oversight and guidance over the implementation of that law. We are collaborating with other anti-corruption agencies because we have realized that we cannot work in silos. We have created an ecosystem through which we can share data. It doesn't make any sense if the subject is anti-corruption. ICPC or Professor Wasonye is investigating, spending taxpayers' monies in millions of naira, and also EFCC is doing the same thing. So we have ensured a collaborative framework through which all the anti-corruption agencies can share data, information, and work together. So as a result of all this, we have recovered in excess of 200 billion. In final forfeiture. There are recoveries that are still interim, which we cannot deal with, but they have been effectively protected. But the monies that we have earned for the federal government in this process is in excess of 200 billion. Notable among these are the $325 million Abuja recovery. We also recovered $75 million connected to the Malabu transaction. So, without taking much of our time, in a nutshell, this is what the Office of the Attorney General has been doing to ensure that the war against corruption is carried out in a coordinated, effective, efficient manner in line with international best practices and the rule of law. In the future, we are planning to do more. We want to leverage technology in the fight against corruption. So we want to create enabling legislation and laws to permit the use of technology in the fight against corruption so that it can be more efficient. Thank you so much and God bless.
We thank Mr. Abiodun Ayodeji, SA Financial Crimes, for the presentation. We wish you a very good luck. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, can we once more put our hands together for the efforts that the Honorable Attorney General's Office is doing in terms of combating financial crimes. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to apologize for the omission at my opening remarks about the panelists. We also have amongst us here the Chairman Code of Conduct Bureau in the person of Muhammad Isa, who is also going to make presentations. Sir, you're most welcome. Thank you. May my colleague come forward and recognize some of your personalities before we continue.
The Chief Moderator, with your kind permission, I will quickly recognize some of our dignitaries that we have here today. Let me start with the Honorable Minister of Communication, Dr. Pantami. I welcome you. We have with us the Honorable Minister of State Health, very distinguished Senator Olorunniyi Mamora. I welcome you, sir. We have the Honorable Minister of State Environment, Mrs. Sharon. I welcome you, madam. We have with us the representative of the Minister of Defense and Chief of Defense Staff in the person of Air Commodore O.O. Akiswanya, retired. Thank you very much for coming. The Senate Committee Chairman on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, Senator Suleiman Abdulkwari, is represented here today by Special Advisor Mr. Ashley Emenike. I welcome you. I want to welcome the representative of the Corps Marshal, Dr. Boboyo Yemi, ably represented today by Deputy Corps Marshal J. Asom MNI. I welcome you. The Honorable Minister of Police Affairs is here with us too. Mr. Mohammed Megari Dengyadi, Katsulan Sokoto. I welcome you, sir. As we continue, okay, the man of my generation, the Honorable Minister of Sports is with us, Mr. Sunday Dari. We welcome you. As we continue in this meeting, we will duly recognize some of our other dignitaries that are here. Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
Thank you very much.
So I think we would please reserve all other recognitions until after the panelists have given their account. Otherwise, we will lose our train of thoughts. So please, may I just call on the Executive Secretary of the of PACA, Professor Sadiq Rada, to please come and take to make his own presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I want to stand on existing protocol. Going forward, I want to extend the apologies of the Chairman, Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, Professor Ishe Sagi, for his inability to be here with us, but he has told me to tell the town hall meeting that he's with us in spirit. And he has asked me to brief the meeting regarding the activities of the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption. Going forward, I will say that the committee was established as part of the fulfillment of the campaign promises of the President to fight against corruption on assuming office. We were established in 2015 and we were given extensive powers and extensive mandate, and one of the terms of reference of the committee is to intervene comprehensively in the fight against corruption. And our understanding as academics and as a think tank for the government regarding the fight against corruption is to disaggregate and find out then if we are to intervene comprehensively in the fight against corruption, what can we do within the country to fight corruption? What can we do outside the country in the fight against corruption? We have realized that corruption is a transborder crime. People salt our resources from Nigeria and take it abroad. Therefore, the fight against corruption will not have to stay or begin and end in Nigeria. As a result of that, we engaged in quite a number of intellectual activities, including a lot of interface with all the anti-corruption agencies so that we can have a lot of synergy regarding what the anti-corruption agencies do. Like the representative of the AG has said, working in silos will not help the fight against corruption, and therefore, part of what we did ab initio was to ensure that there is a platform for sharing information, and that is why we developed, the protocol for sharing information between and among the anti-corruption agencies, because, like he said, duplicating efforts will amount to wasting resources. Then again, we developed the model on PIB again. Then we realized that a lot of resources are being confiscated, some get wasted in the process. Then we developed guidance laws regarding asset management, beginning from what is perishable to money animals, and all manner of things. In essence, the committee developed a lot of materials to guide the nation regarding the fight against corruption. We made a lot of input relating to the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, which is now being operated in Nigeria. Therefore, as a think tank, as an advisory body that has the ears of the president, we have done quite a lot that is visible. However, there are things that are not visible which we have done, we have documented, and we have passed on to the president. And that is not for maybe public consumption. But going forward, can we say there are no problems in the fight against corruption, even though we have achieved a lot? A lot of progress has been done. Are we there yet? Well, one can say, no, we are not there yet, even though we are not where we were, but we are not where we want to be. Therefore, the journey goes on. The battle against corruption will go on. So what are those areas that in a town hall meeting like this, we should pay our attention to so that concerted efforts can be made to ensure that the battle is won? For us as a committee, we feel to actually succeed in the fight against corruption, you must wholeheartedly and sincerely carry the bar and bench along. They must key very much into the fight against corruption. There shouldn't be any two ways about it. Especially lawyers must key into the fight against corruption, that you are either in it or you are not. There shouldn't be in between. Why? Because along the process we have realized that all manner of corrupt practices in Nigeria happen because of laxities in our professions. Lawyers, accountants, bankers, auditors, architects. By the time you have professionals that respects the ethics of their profession, possibility is corruption will be very, very minimal. But here we are with professionals without professionalism. So I feel lawyers, judges must help this country and ensure that, legally speaking, we battle the corruption we have in Nigeria. But we have realized that it takes a lot of time to go into litigation because of the electoral tactics and many other delay methodologies. Therefore, we have been part of the process to encourage non-conviction-based asset forfeiture regime. And in this regard, I am very happy Professor Bolaji is here. I'm sure he will talk extensively on that. Now the action will go after the property, not the individual, so that at least the human rights community can keep quiet. Because by the time you arrest the individual, irrespective of the manner of the offense, people shout about human rights without recognizing the rights of the Nigerian people whose properties have been taken. By the time you go after the property, then the individual can come forward and offer explanation. And I think going forward, our anti-corruption agencies have been doing that. That's why we deeply and seriously appreciate Ibrahim Magu for the efforts he has been doing to ensure that resources looters. It is the global practice today that criminals must not be allowed to benefit from the process of crime. It's the global standard practice. Therefore, going after the individuals will only cause more problems, but going after the property will be the right thing to do. By the time we continue like that and people don't have benefits from the process of crime, possibility is people will be deterred. Now, as a committee, some of us can remember we met the president on the 10th of October. We gave him all the documents we were able to produce. We offered some advices, but we told the president that going forward in this country, the fight against corruption must devolve to states and local governments. Now, a lot of resources are being sent to local governments and the states.
I think 48 to 49% of the monthly allocation of the federation goes to the states and local governments. It's a huge quantum of resources. But while the federal government is doing a lot to fight corruption, to ensure that there is maximum effect regarding the resources of the nation, not much is being done in the state. Talk less of our local governments. Therefore, we feel, as a committee, let us go and see what we can do in the state. In that regard, the committee has gone.
On all our social media platforms, Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online. All visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.nta.
Let's put our hands on, ladies and gentlemen, for the very good job they are doing. Moderator, sir.
It's my pleasure now to please call on the acting executive chairman of the EFCC, Ibrahim Magu, to please make his presentation.
He's wanting me to I'm already communicating. I don't want to take more than 5 minutes. He can have the rest. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for organizing this town hall meeting. It gives us an opportunity to review what we have done and put here together. Like my last colleague has said, this fighting corruption, no one person can beat his chest and say he can fight corruption alone. So one of the most effective strategy in fighting corruption is to bring everybody on board, every Nigerian, because every Nigerian has a responsibility in the fight against corruption. Corruption is just like rain. When it's raining outside, it beats everybody. It won't beat the corrupt people. So we should put hands together and then fight corruption. Thank you very much for being here. I also said it's like fighting corruption is not only the work of the EFCC, ICPC, Code of Conduct, and the police. Every law enforcement agency is primarily established to fight injustice, that's corruption. So it's not like even the army, everybody, all the law enforcement agencies in this country is primarily, fundamentally established in the fight against corruption. So I think we should also start looking at other law enforcement agencies when there is so much corruption. But we are collaborating with their stakeholders. We are working together. And everybody has a responsibility in the fight against collaboration. We have enforcement. We have prosecution. That's the secret actually. In some in other law enforcement agencies in some other countries, they can only prevent and they cannot enforce. They have to go to the police will enforce. When it is prosecution, they go to the Ministry of Justice to prosecute. But we can do all. That's why we have one of the highest conviction. And this is real. You can go and check our website. Every conviction we get, every arrest we make, we usually, and we have a website where you can see. So it's real. The law establishes the ESC, the law establishing the ESC gives the Commission power to take measures to prevent corruption and other forms of economic crimes. This manages it perfectly with the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, as well as the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC, Recommendation 60, which requires that about 60% of the effort of anti-corruption should be devoted to preventive measures. I feel very uncomfortable, a professor just spoke before me, and another professor will speak after me. So the EFC has, over the last 2 years, has a corruption prevention strategy that targets the most vulnerable segment of the population in the delivery of anti-corruption messages. These are the children, the youth, and the women. Specific programs we've done, I will list them. We have establishment of the integrity clubs in primary schools and tertiary institutions in all states of the Federation. We have organized organization of Clean Hand Initiative for school children. We have special corruption and cyber crime sensitization for National Youth Service Corps members during their orientation programs. We have an establishment of the anti-corruption community involvement clubs for corps members during their post-orientation service year. We launched the Women Against Corruption. It's a very helpful program. Hosting of the first ever anti-corruption marathon. Hosting active participation in observing the yearly December 9
Follow us on all our social media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA